All right, one of our favorite people.
Thank
One
you.
of our favorite people. One of our best performing all-time guests. Didn't believe me, but I swear to God it's true. Ed Mylett back on the show. It's been 1 year.
Yeah.
We had you kick off 2019 New Year episode, and we're going to do the same thing in 2020 because so many people love the episode, love you, love the conversation. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be with you. I love you guys, and you look so good you're so far along for your
8.5 months pregnant. I'm about to pop.
Yeah, and you said it was pretty easy too.
It's been pretty easy, but I have to be honest, I really miss alcohol.
I knew you would say something
I
like
do.
that.
And also the gaining weight thing. I've talked about this on my show. It's been like hard.
Where did you gain it? I don't see any weight.
Oh my God. You should
She's
see
too
my
hard on
ass.
herself.
Yeah.
She's too hard on herself.
Yeah, you're not hard on her, but she's hard on you.
No.
No, she's
he
way
tells me-
hard. I tell her, I'm like, listen, you're growing a healthy baby. Like, have fun.
That's exactly right, by the way. And the genetic combo is completely unfair between the two of you.
We'll
this
see.
kid is going to be gorgeous.
Listen, I'm just happy it's healthy right now, you know?
Yeah, let's hope that it gets my nose though. Still, I'm
That's
putting
fine.
that out into the ether. Okay, so let's hop right into this because this is a theme that I keep hearing on your show, you on other shows, and I think that this is a good way to start the new year. Why is perfectionism hurting you?
Well, perfectionism is a cop-out, number one, because you know going in that it's not a real standard that you can maintain, and so it's your way out. So most people say they're perfectionists as a way out of doing things, right? And it's hurting you because it's an impossible thing to achieve, because if you are a perfectionist, you've already set the game up where no matter what you do, you're deficient. And it's funny because on my show, when I started my show, it's mainly achievers, right? And I wondered when I did it, what will they all have in common? Like, is it hard work? They got lucky, brains? And ironically, like I've been shocked, not every single person, but the vast majority, what they have the most in common is a mild touch of depression. Does that surprise you? Like on and off camera, a mild touch of depression. And I know why that is, I think. And I think it's because people that are achievers set these incredibly high standards for themselves, and they're never measuring up. There's always this incongruency between what they think they're capable of and what they're doing. And the worst of those are the perfectionist people, because then they never live up. So not only is it a standard you'll never meet, it's a cop-out to not doing things, but it's wiring yourself for misery your entire life, because you'll never live up. You'll always have that gap. You've already pre-wired yourself for some form of depression, anxiety, worry, all of the time. It's one of the worst things you could do to yourself is to call yourself or make yourself a perfectionist.
What are other excuses that you keep hearing? Like I'll give you one of mine that I hear all the time. Oh, well, I can't go blog on Instagram because it's saturated. I can't stand that.
That's a biggie too. Oh. Yeah, the other one is that people think they have nothing to offer. People sell themselves super short, right? So it's not imposter syndrome. That's different, where when you're achieving, but you sometimes think maybe people are going to figure out I'm not as great as I am. I have a little bit of that from time to time. I think everybody does. The big one I have is, well, I don't have anything to offer. Nobody's going to listen to me. Somebody's already doing it. My brother-in-law, for example, just started a dad podcast. And he came to me and goes, I just want to do a podcast. And I said, well, I think what you're best at is being a dad. He's not a super big earner in life. You know, he's not in unbelievable shape. He's a wonderful father. And I said, you ought to podcast about that. You ought to talk about that. He goes, nobody wants to hear about that. There's already a dad podcast. I'm like, Brian, there's not your version of it, dude. It's not your message, your way of doing it. And you shouldn't do it to get downloads or likes. You should do it as a form of expression of yourself. Not enough people just give themselves credit that one of the things you were born to do is express yourself, whether that's through spoken word, written word, music, the way you treat people. These are forms of expression, right? And so for me, I think the big one is, well, no one will listen to me. I don't have anything to offer. Every human being does. And I don't say that in like a corny way either. I learn a lot from my own audience, as I know you guys do too. And not all of them make millions of dollars a year or have built huge companies. I learn a lot about how to treat one another, about different ways of thinking, about experiencing the world. Particularly for me, as you were saying before we went on, a lot of my following is women. And for me, kind of being, I don't know, at least on outward appearances, sometimes, a masculine male, I have an awful lot of followers that are women or feminine. And I've learned a lot about how to treat people differently, how to communicate differently from my audience. So everybody has something to teach somebody else.
You know, it's funny, sitting in my seat, 90% of the talent that I find to be the most successful are the ones that set out without an intention to try to earn money or money. It was because they wanted to do what you said, express themselves. They wanted to create something to put out in the world and provide value to people listening, watching, reading, whatever it is. The business kind of just popped up out of nowhere once they started doing that.
Brother, that's the most amazing thing. I had a whole day. There's well-known celebrity person that I coach. And I was with him yesterday, and that's exactly what I told him. I said, you need to stop trying to start with the money in mind first and start with the expression, the need, the desire, your gift. I can honestly tell you, I've obviously been blessed financially. I've not started any of my businesses with the idea to make money in the very beginning. When I started in the financial business, I had just come out of the group home, the orphanage that I worked at. And I was like, these kids all come from broken families. I'm going to go serve these families. I never computed in the beginning like, this is going to make me a lot of money. It wasn't my intention to do it, nor have any of the businesses that I've started. 100% right.
It's so funny though. People, I think they believe now with any type of content, with art, there needs to be a monetary association with it in order to be successful. They don't think like, hey, I'm just going to go out and create anymore. People just can't wrap their head around that. Like, if you just get out and create things, that will start bringing value to people, and they'll want to support you.
They want to support you, and maybe you won't make a ton of money doing it, but maybe you'll create change doing it. Maybe you'll be happier. You'll certainly be fulfilled. Fulfillment is the process of giving your gift or serving other people. It's the only thing that ever fulfills you. There's a lie out there. People say, well, material things won't make you happy. Total lie. Yeah. When I bought my jet, I was happy, right? You buy a nice car, you're happy. You get a nice pair of shoes, you have a nice meal, you're happy. It's just a lie that those things don't make you happy. What they won't ever do is fulfill you. It's fleeting. It's not long lasting. Doesn't fill your soul up with something. One of my most impactful guests ever was a lady named Kayla Stockland. And she makes no money with the speaking she does.
I love that episode.
Thank you. And her husband was a pastor. 3 children, 6, 4, and 2 years old. He goes to one of their football games, kisses his children, goes back to their church to prepare his message, and hangs himself.
Yeah.
And she has taken that message of what it's done to her family, and she's changing lives, man. And when she started, because I knew her before, she was like, well, who would want to listen to me? No one wants. And I'm like, maybe you won't make a ton of money doing it, but I'm going to tell you something. You're going to change the world. You're literally not going to change lives. You're actually going to save lives with your message. Lo and behold, just now she's starting getting paid to do some of this speaking. It was never the intention. We never saw that coming, but it was her form of expression. It was also, for many people, it was her form of healing. She was healing herself by helping other people, by expressing her pain, right? So for some of you, some of your businesses may be to express yourself. It may be to heal you. It may to make a difference for other people. And ultimately, there's a high probability it'll be profitable if you get good at it. You have to get good at it too.
It takes practice, it takes time.
You speak a lot about serving people. You said that you sort of had it all, but you've said in your podcast that what gets you off now is serving people.
Yeah.
Can you speak on that?
Yeah, you guys are the best at this, by the way. It surprises me how much I like it. To be really honest with you, I think when I was younger, I think this version of me as a grown man might even surprise me when I was young. To the extent of how much I love helping people. It's not work for me. It's like my calling. It's almost like I found my home in my life, and so. The first chapters of my life were all about business and making a difference for other people. I made a lot of money, but I really wanted to. I kept telling myself, this isn't even filling me up. And so for me, every time I'm down, every time I'm hurting, every time I'm lost, I get anxiety, I get worry. I have this button I push, which you may sound crazy, but how can I make a difference for somebody else? How can I help them? When I'm really feeling my worst is when I call my friends and check in on them. When I'm really hurting the most is when it's nuts. I just did this. I got into the elevator in the parking garage here. This is going to sound so twisted, but it's little things that I do that make me feel fulfilled. I press the button to go in the elevator to come down to come see you guys. This guy walks up next to me and he presses up to go up, and it was a parking garage. For some reason, I got this sense. This just happened. This guy was sitting next to me. I looked at him, gave me a great smile. I said, hello, bro. He just had this look on his face, right? And I wanted to ask him if he was okay, but I didn't. But I went up with him in the elevator just now. I went up, and while we were in there, it makes me emotional now. I don't know why I did this, but we were in the elevator. I just said a prayer for him. I just said, God, give him peace, give him comfort, give him strength right now. And he got out of the elevator and he turns around, and I said, hey man, have a great day. And he gave me this huge smile, like his whole disposition changed on the ride up. I think he knew I rode up with him. I don't think he knew why I did. And for me, that gave me the gift, not him. Like, I feel great having done that. I feel energized. I'm not having a great day coming here today. My mom and dad are both really in a bad space, and I was talking to them all the way up. The way out of that, the pathway out of that for me was to serve somebody else.
It makes a ton of sense. What is going back to when you were younger days?
Yeah.
What would your older self tell your younger self now? Like, think yourself 20s, 30s. How would you, You know, because you're so different now. You're focused on different things. Like how would you coach yourself back then?
And I would even like for you, just because I'm a consumer of your content, to tell yourself what you would tell yourself at 20, 30, and 40, because those are different eras. So is there certain things that you would give advice in separate sort of segments?
We're doing this selfishly because we want to know.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the first thing for me is I would go back to that 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, even 40-year-old me, and I'd just say, hey, man, everything's going to be okay. I have this thing about me. It's why I love helping other people. I kind of just was wired as a little boy with worry and anxiety all the time. I wish somebody would have said, hey, man, it's going to be okay.
I relate to that.
Yeah. Do you? Yeah.
100%.
And I would say that to the whole audience. It's going to be okay. God loves you. You're blessed. You're favored. Everything's going to be okay. You're wonderful. You're amazing. You're special. You're chosen. You were born for a reason. I wish I could go back to that little boy or even the 20-year-old and go, hey, man, you were born to do something great with your life, and you're going to find it. And just keep serving people. Keep making a difference. Keep believing in yourself. Keep improving yourself. Keep growing. That's what I'd say to the younger version of me. The 30-year-old version of me, I would have told myself back then, probably the 30-year-old version of me, I would have said, enjoy the journey more. I think in my 20s, I was all about achievement and running. Maybe I'm backwards from most people. I think a lot of people in their 20s are partying. And I was like, man, I wanted to win. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to make it. And I think if I'd have grabbed me at 30, I would have said, hey, man, enjoy this. Like with the two of you having your children. Regularly, Cristiano will say, do you remember when Max, my little boy, and I go, I don't remember him, or do you remember when Bella had her first? I don't remember.
You're just out there working too hard.
I was too much. And for everybody that's out there, I want you winning. I want you achieving. I want you growing. But the greatest gift you could actually give yourself is to be present more often, to just put your phone down, be present, enjoy the moment. The thing about social media that's wonderful is we get to do all this stuff. The downside is we're far less present than we used to be. And between social media, between how hard I was working, I wasn't there enough. In other words, I just went moment to moment to moment, win to win to win to win to win, and never just took it in and enjoyed it. That's what I would have told the 30-year-old me is, hey, man, you're only in your 30s once. Everybody listen to this. You're only in the prime of your life, which is probably 25 to 55 years old, at least physically for most people. That's a short window of time in eternity. Enjoy it. Have some more bliss in your life. Win, compete, achieve. But I'd have told myself to enjoy it a little bit more. And that's what's happened to me in my 40s. I figured out, I talk about this a lot about being blissfully dissatisfied, but I figured out, I used to think, man, if I enjoy this right now, if I start to take this all in, I'm going to lose all my drive, all my desire, all my ambition's going to go away if I start enjoying it, which was a total lie. Actually, the more you enjoy the moment, the more you celebrate it, the more your brain gets this dopamine hit that says, let's do this again. Let's do this again. I started to burn out. Literally burn out is the process of not enjoying the previous wins, the previous moments, and your brain fries and goes, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this work anymore. So that's what I've done in my 40s. It's different is I've celebrated more. I've enjoyed more.
That's
I'm
really
alive
good.
More.
We need to do that more, both of us, because we're probably at least me speaking personally, am in the seat where it's like achieve, and there's never a moment where it's like, oh, that was good. We could celebrate that a little bit. We could take a step back and enjoy it.
You need a composition notepad for
No,
that
but
one. So do I.
This is why I got to talk to guys like
By the
that
way,
because
both of us do.
So do most people,
Yes.
by the way. This is the human condition. And here's why. Our few friends who seem to be enjoying themselves all the time are the ones not achieving sometimes, right? You're like, well, yeah, I got my buddy from high school. He's always having a beer and a blast, and he doesn't do shit. So that formula doesn't work. So we equate celebrating and partying and enjoying to lack of achievement. They're not correlated at all. Blissful dissatisfaction means this. You can be blissfully dissatisfied. People conflate two different things. Satisfaction and happiness are completely separate things, but people think they're the same thing. They think, well, if I'm satisfied, I lose all of my desire. No, I'm happily dissatisfied still. I like chasing stuff. I like the journey. I like the run. But if the whole journey is you never stop and see any of the places you've been, I've seen you guys in some of these beautiful places you guys go, and every once in a while, I feel good, at least on your social, when I see you, Michael. I'm like, I think he's enjoying this moment right now. I think they're enjoying this drink.
We do enjoy travel.
Okay.
I think we do. I think we enjoy travel. You take some time off.
Those trips are the ones time where like that's probably an instance where I am taking time off, but there should be more.
There's a danger. Can I tell you what that pattern is?
Yes.
I have a few friends. I had that too. That your pattern is I only enjoy things when I leave my environment.
Yep.
So when I'm in my environment all the time, that's the place I don't enjoy myself. And so, the challenge with that is you're going to be in your environment 95 to 99% of your life. Right. So that's the next level. Guys go, well, that's not true. When we go to Cabo, man, I let it go, man, for like 3 days every 150 days.
Yep, that Cabo Airport's seen me in some bad states.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you have that pattern where your environment is a place you don't enjoy yourself, because you're going to be in your environment all the time.
What does it look like you coach all these high performers and athletes and celebrities? What does a coaching session with you look like?
You mean like the first one?
Yeah, like give us. It could even be the third one.
And what's the common denominator you see in these individuals? Like, what are they lacking? What are they looking for? What do they need help with?
Happiness.
Okay.
100% of the time. Everything in the universe comes back to, I want to be happier. So I want to build a big old company. Why? So you have a bunch of green pieces of paper? No, you think all those green pieces of paper will make you happier. Well, I want to have, a jet. Well, why do you want to have a jet? Because I think flying around on my own plane will make me happier. Everything comes back to happiness. And the irony is that most of the people that are achieving things are not wired to have more happiness. So usually what a first session is like is a lot of listening for me and getting them clear on what it is they actually want. Because 99.9% of them come to me for what they think they want, which is, would you show me how to get more movie roles? Can you show me how to get out of this slump I'm in because I'm 2 for my last 40 at the plate, or I've missed 6 straight putts to win golf tournaments, right? And they think that's what they want. But what's really blocking them is their inability, their lack of patterns, their lack of skills to be happy. If you think about it, everywhere in the world, right, you learn how to do different things. There's no course. Our parents didn't teach us. Our parents probably weren't that happy. We probably weren't raised around happy people. And so there's no course, no mechanism, no learning, no environment, no large group of associations where we learn to be happier. So the truth is, the vast majority of humans aren't quite as happy as they'd like to be.
Well, it makes sense, because if you think about the people that, for your level of coaching, they're already kind of hit the society benchmarks. A lot of them probably already have the money and the success and the companies and the jets, and they're still not happy.
They're in the most, Michael, you're brilliant. They're in the most dangerous place. They're like, I did this.
Because
I did
society's
this.
validated
it
them.
It still didn't get me. It still didn't fill me up. It still didn't do it for me. And usually when you ask them, crazy question, what have you been doing to serve other people? What are you doing to make a difference? Like, all of my athletes, number one requirement if you're going to work with me, paid or unpaid, is you're going to start some type of a foundation. And they're like, why in the world is that one of the first? Because I'm going to force you, egomaniac, selfish athlete, since you were 12 years old, you were the biggest, fastest, strongest. Everywhere you went, you've been treated special. You don't relate to normal people very well. All your life, you've been this way. I'm going to get you, out of your ego, and into serving other people. I'm going to force this with you, with these environments. And the athletes that I know that take their profile, their money, their influence to serve other people are always the happiest athletes. And here's what's ironic. They make more putts. It's not that I don't teach them, as you know, my stuff. I teach them neuro-linguistic programming. I teach them how to use a reticular activating system. I teach them all the triggers and anchors and skills to get into peak states and filter things out. All the technical things I teach are mandatory for them to win. But to get them to be a whole human being, I have to get them serving other people.
It sounds like you give them a whole toolbox.
I give them the tools I have. I don't have the whole toolbox, but I give them what I have. And again, from working with them, I often learn things. So, I don't have all the tools. I don't have all the answers. And the reason that I'm a little bit effective at helping people is because I had to learn these tools out of necessity for myself. In other words, usually when you find somebody who seems to have their act together on personal development or self-confidence or achievement, if you met them way back when, they weren't even baseline. Like, I wasn't even a baseline person. I was a super low identity, super lack of confidence, super introverted, super shy, super down on myself, super insecure. I had to learn these things to function as a human, never mind achieve. So what happened is it just became an addiction of how to get better, how to make my brain work better, how to be happier, how to help people, how to program myself. All that stuff was necessity because I started so far back down the latter.
I think that there's something that you don't talk about often, but you have a tool in your toolbox, which is your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was listening to you and Matthew. I don't know his last name.
Hussey.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's
on
incredible.
your podcast about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something so interesting to me. He said that you're actually selfish if you want to start your own business. That's a selfish thing.
It caught me too.
And and he said that to you, and I could tell, like, I was like, whoa, he's right. Why should you think that your partner should just co-sign your dream and be all about your dream when you're doing something that is so incredibly selfish? So I guess what I would like you to speak on is, how has your wife's selflessness given you a foundation for your business and for you to thrive?
That's such a good question. I just ended up with this, like you guys, we met really young. We met when I was 5 years old, but first off, I think God introduced me to her because I think had we not met when we were young, I'd probably be incarcerated by now, right? Like I think I had to just have I had to have someone in my life who wanted to make me want to be a better man. So she makes me, we have a normal relationship, as you know, all the time with fights and disagreements, but she makes me want to be better. What's selfless about her is that she really enjoys watching me win. She really enjoys watching me succeed. She wants me to become who I'm capable of becoming. Since we were little kids, she's wanted that. Now, there's quirks to it. I mean, like, I'd like her to be more excited when I do win. Like when we do achieve something, I'm like, babe, I did it. And she's like, yeah, great, babe. I'm like, hello. You know what most people
I think that gets both you guys hard, though.
No,
I think you guys like that. I think you like when we're not overly excited.
You know what it is?
I don't give him you can't give him too much.
Do you have that too?
Probably have that too.
I can't stroke it too
but I
much.
think both on the same side. I think the reason she's like that with you is because she believes in you so much that she's not surprised.
That's exactly what it is. That's what she'll tell me. She goes, I know you're going to do that.
When my entire life, like with Lauren used to put on this little act where she ran around with like a little dog and the blonde hair is like a real, like it was like, what's that, Legally Blonde? Like, it was like in high school. And I used to get frustrated when we were kids. And I'd be like, you're so much smarter than this. You're so like, not demeaning her. I just knew her potential.
Yes.
And so everything she's achieved, like, when she launched her blog, when she launched her brand, I'm not surprised by any of it. Like, this was already destined for you. And it's like, and I believed it so much. So she sometimes will even get upset with me if I'm not celebrating. I'm like, listen, I already knew this was going to happen for you. You just know it about something. She probably like that with you.
Well, I think you uncovered something huge. That is what she tells me. And I think you just hit on something huge. Because spouses will ask me often, like, how do I get my spouse to support what I'm doing? Christiana has not always supported what I'm doing. She hasn't even always believed in what I'm doing. She's always believed in me.
Yeah. That's the key.
So the key thing I would ask you, if you're in a relationship where they're not supporting the business you're starting, whatever you're doing, is stop talking about the business. By the way, they might be right. Your business may not work. You need to ask them if they believe in you. I think love is what you just said you have for her and what she has for you. I think love, if you distilled it way down, is like you really believe in them. Yeah. You really believe in who they're capable of and who they really are. You could almost equate love and belief. Like if I look at my children, I believe in them so much about what they're capable of. That's my love for them. I see them as their best self, not as the mistakes they make all the time. And so Christiana, the key in our relationship, she is selfless. It's her belief in me. It's not her belief in the businesses that I've started or even the people that I've associated with. It's her belief in me. That's
and if you
what
think
makes
about
it
it like that and it's a real belief in you, then it's hard to jump up and down and celebrate because it's like you're not surprised. So jumping up and down is an actual, it's fake, right? It's because you already knew this was going to happen. You believe it so much that when it happens, like, cool, we're here. This is what it is.
One other thing that's been pretty special that may seem really small that I would just say is a gift that she gives me is she's grateful. She doesn't take it for granted. So although she expects me to do it, I left yesterday. I had a long day yesterday, and she just texted me in the middle of the day, which was cool. She's just like, thank you for working so hard for our family. I love you so much. Or even when we leave dinner, which is weird because she's my wife. It's our money, right? But we'll leave dinner with the kids, and she'll say in the car, she does it every single time with the kids in the car too. She'll go, thank you, Daddy, for dinner. Tell your daddy thank you. And I say, thank you, babe, because it's ours, right? Mm-hmm. But the point is that she's always reminding herself to be grateful. If I could give you one little key to that, she was raised with a model of it. When we were dating, I've talked about this a lot. I really believe you have to stay intimate in your relationship. You got to touch each other. Otherwise, over time, I'm not just talking about sex either, but I do think that's important. I told you guys this before, but over time, people grow apart because they're not as intimate. They don't touch, they don't hug, they don't, hold hands. There's a intimacy to it. When I was a little boy and I'd go pick her up for dates at her house, you could look into the living room. I've told you this. but you'd look into the living room. Maybe a Saturday, I'm going to pick my girlfriend up. My parents loved each other, but they didn't express it in front of us, right? And I'd look in the living room, and her mom and dad would have the TV off. I'm talking, this has happened over 100 times. It's a Saturday night, TV's off. They were in their 60s, and they're slow dancing in the living room. Just in love, just dancing, just touching
Why the
each
don't you slow dance with me in the living room?
I was slow dancing with the Chihuahua the other day. But I'll have to get with you.
And we don't slow dance in our living room either. The point I'm making is they showed their gratitude that way.
Yeah, they're showing love to each other.
They're showing love, right? You one last thing I want to say about relationships that we have done a pretty good job of is that, you know how like when you're with someone a long time, you think you know them? Okay, like I know him, I know her. We don't have that. We're constantly trying to learn new things about each other. When you think you got them figured out already, then there's no interest, there's no dating, there's no nothing. The truth is, she's very different at 47
Smart.
than she was at 27, than she was at 17, than she was at 7. There's a different woman there. I'm interested in getting to know her all the time, and I don't take for granted that I know everything all the time about her. That's when your relationship gets stale too.
Yeah, Matthew said like something about a landscape. It was a quote. I'm going to flub it. It was something about looking at the entire landscape and finding something new each time you look at it.
Yeah, and he also said something powerful that I'd never heard before, whereas he said, you know, I said, do you believe there's a one? And he goes, it's not about finding new relationships all the time. It's about being in a new relationship with the same person. I thought that was pretty powerful.
Let's switch gears here a little bit. Not too much, but
Okay.
One component is key. We've been getting a lot of questions about you're the perfect person to ask about this. But in order to have fulfillment, in order to have a successful business, a successful relationship, to be happy, you have to have confidence, right? You have to have some self-confidence. And there's so many people, young people especially, that write in and say, I'm lacking confidence. How do I build confidence?
Good question. Self-confidence is self-trust, and self-confidence is the process of keeping the promises that you make to yourself. So the way we begin to build our self-confidence up is we start setting promises up with ourselves that we keep. And when you begin to stack those promises, when I meet someone who's not self-confident, I know this is someone who has consistently broken promises they make to themselves. They start a diet, they don't stay with it. They say they're going to get up at a certain time of day, they don't do it. They say they're going to make a certain amount of contacts a day in their business, they don't do it. When I meet a confident person, this is someone who trusts themselves. So what I would say to you is absolutely, I can tell you exactly what to do. You need to begin to make promises to yourself, set up the game early where you can keep them, stack that stuff and create momentum. And what happens is you will begin to build a reputation with yourself that you can trust you. And that's what a self-confident person has. That's what you have. That's what you have. Is you've built a pattern with you of keeping the promises you make to yourself. That's what self-confidence is.
And so for the people that aren't doing that, it's just they just continuously break them. And so like, is it they're setting too big of promises, or
they're setting too big of promises, and they're unintentional about it. They don't connect that me not doing these things I tell myself is destroying my self-confidence. They think, well, if I don't go to the gym, I'm just going to get fatter. It's way worse than that. If you said you were going to the gym and you don't go, not only do you get fatter, but you erode your own self-confidence, which makes the next promise even more difficult to keep. Well, I'm going to make this many contacts today. Well, the punishment for that is I don't get the business growth. Bullshit. Not only do you not get the business growth, you've eroded more confidence with yourself. And the more, it's like any relationship. If you kept telling Lauren things over and over again that you were going to do that you didn't do, she's like, I don't trust this guy. Nothing he says, he doesn't keep his word. Imagine how detrimental it is to do it to yourself because you don't believe your own lies. At least if you were BSing her, well, I got stuck at work or this, you might be able to convince her. You can't do that with yourself. There's no way of lying it with yourself. So absolutely, you need to start setting things up initially that you know you can do, and you need to be intentional about it because it's destroying you when you don't do those things.
Have we talked about that book together, Compelling People? Have I told you? We talked about that? I swear we talked about it.
No.
There's Compelling People is
He
a
checks
book.
the list.
Well, you check the list, but I think when I say it to you, you'll understand it. So it says there's two components, and it says strength and warmth are two components of a compelling person, and you can't have just one. You have to have both to be somebody that is compelling to people. They say strength is like Ed tells you you're going to do something, and I believe that you actually are. Like I fully believe whatever you tell me you're going to do, you're going to do, right? But if you just have strength, and that's it, you don't have warmth. Warmth is the component that when you do that thing, you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it to help others as well. So strength and warmth is, Ed's telling me he's going to do this, but I know when you do it, it's not just to help yourself, it's also to help me. So there's a lot of people that you can think about that are very strong, and they tell you you're going to do something, and you believe they're going to do it, but they have no warmth because you believe they're only doing it for themselves. Or there's people that are very warm, you believe that their intention is they want to help you, but they have no strength to follow through.
That's
so
awesome.
You have to be a compelling person, you have to have both.
Ooh, that is so good.
And I think that's something that you can work on too. I don't think you just have to be 5 years old and be a compelling person. It's something that you constantly have to improve on.
Of course, nothing that makes most people successful, they're born with. I mean, like, there's a few things. Like, if you're 6'9" and you can windmill dunk, then you're born with a few things, right? Of course. But by and large, most of the people that are successful at anything, these are skills, not talents, which is a different. Talent is something you're innately born with. Skills are something that you develop. I don't have any talents, not any significant talents, but I've built a series of skills that serve me in my life and in business, right? So that's the difference, is distinguishing between those two things.
You've really become a practitioner of learning how to better yourself.
So have you. Yeah.
I try.
And so does anybody who's listening to this.
Yes.
Anybody listening to this, you don't give your warmth. You said something there, but I would flip that I'm going to use, actually. And that is, I wish more people had both those components with themselves. So I wish for most people that they believed themselves when they made promises, and that they were warmer with themselves, meaning they're kinder to themselves. They gave themselves a little bit more credit. You ask the average person, make a list of like 50 things that are deficient with you. They're like, boom, give me 6 things you're great at. I can think of 1, right? Most people are so cruel to themselves. They treat everybody else in their life far better than they treat themselves. I wish for more people listening to this, you just be a little kinder and gentler and warmer with yourself. You'd find, I know that could be connotated in a lot of different ways, but I mean it in the good way. I wish more of you would give that gift to yourself, especially starting out the year.
No, but I think that's all of us. That's Lauren. Whenever I do something and I screw up or I fuck up something, I have to get better at this. There's nobody that's harder on myself than me. Sometimes the things that I say to myself in my head, I'm like, holy shit, okay, like pump the brakes. This is not healthy. And I think that that's just like, that's wired into us, right?
Yes.
For whatever reason, maybe it's the way we grow up, whatever, but it's
why you need to be intentional. This word intention is monster, man. Like, even having negative thoughts, you're so good at this, bro. Like, even negative thoughts, there's a giant power of just being intentional, being aware when you have them. When you're thinking stupid shit and you go, I'm doing it again, most of the power that thought has over you is diminished. Just starting to be aware and intentional in your life has huge power. Because I do it. I'll be like, I'm so stupid, right? Like, I can't believe I did it. And I have this really weird mechanism where I go, I'm doing it. And then I kind of aware of the thought, and it loses all of its influence over me. Like, all of the feeling in my body goes away just by being aware of how stupid that thought was to have. So that's just a gift I'd give the audience.
So this whole episode is like a new year. We're starting fresh. What are some tools, like micro tools, little habits, little systems, tiny ones, could be setting an alarm on your phone that people can take and use to hold themselves accountable?
I'm going to give your audience the biggest gift that I haven't done this anywhere yet. So I'm writing about it, but since it's a new year, this will be out with your show before mine. I've been working on, like, how come so many people set up all these goals and then they don't happen, right? And so I'm going to take you through a little process, probably longer than I should be on a podcast, but just here's the reason why. In order to get something to work for you, you have to have your body and your mind in congruence. So your body is like your unconscious mind. It's how you feel things. Your mind is a thought, right? So what happens for most people is they write a goal down. I'm going to make $300,000. Immediately as they write that thought down, their unconscious mind, which is their body, where their home is, immediately doesn't feel that that's true. They're not in a peak state. They don't feel that it's true. The feeling overrides the thought. The reverse could also be true. You could have great feelings, but you don't have a very consistent, clear goal. So most people never align their feelings and their thoughts. It's powerful as hell when you get congruency between your feelings and your thoughts. Now you're unstoppable. What I've been doing for about 5 years that I now know why it works scientifically is when I'm working out, when I'm training, okay, when I'm moving my body, is when I'm doing all of my visualizations of my goals. I simultaneously have my body in this peak state of whoop, bam, I anchored the thought, whoop, I anchored the thought. It could be 30 seconds when you're doing yoga, when you're walking, when you're running, when you're doing cardio, when you're doing any of your workouts. That's when you need to be feeding yourself your goals, because what's happening is you're wiring your thoughts and your body simultaneously. This now gives you a power because your body is beginning to get trained to embody that goal, literally embody. It's why, like, when you take a shower, sometimes you have the best thoughts you've ever had, or when you're having sex, like you're moving your body, there's a certain way you feel power. If you can begin to align your thoughts during those powerful moments physically, you're a force that you aren't when you're just thinking something. And so this old school, I'm going to write my goals down, I'm going to read them when I'm brushing my teeth, we've proven it doesn't work because there's a body that's in the old mode when the mind is trying to think a new thought. The last thing I do, and athletes do this naturally. Most athletes do this, by the way. They're moving their body. That's when they're visualizing scoring the touchdown. The other thing that athletes do unconsciously very well is they visualize the celebration of the goal. There's a gratitude they have for the goal before its achievement. More and more athletes will tell you, dude, I literally pictured catching that touchdown in the end zone before it happened. So if you'd move your body while you're doing your visualizations for your goals and then project yourself into the video of that goal happening and flood yourself with gratitude for its achievement before you have it, you'll begin to step into that space more regularly. So I'm writing about this. Body, mind, gratitude in the visualization. They'll shift almost everything for you.
What are some things that you're seeing our generation 30 to 40 maybe, and I don't want to say wrong because that's negative, but what are maybe things that we can improve on?
Not being present is 100% number one. Number two, I think there's a lost art form of what the two of you are great at, which is the ability to transfer energy to people in person.
We won't do this show on Skype. We won't do it. We did it 3 or 4 times. It's just, and I'm sorry for the guests that came on. It's just, you don't have this interaction. I want to feel the energy of the person that's across from me.
And that's a muscle you've built too, that I think a lot of 30 to 40 year olds I meet, because of what they were raised with technology, don't have that skill set, and it's killing them in business. It's killing them in their relationships too. Everything's very surface. If you're listening to this and you feel like I don't have a lot of deep relationships like I had when I was back in high school. The reason you had deeper relationships when you were high school, it was a face-to-face. There were human beings interacting with each other. There's a transfer of energy. As we get into our 30s and 40s, more of our relationships become very surface, both in business and personally, because that transfer of energy, the skills are being lost, the repetition of it's being lost. So that would be that one.
It's true, though. There was a deal I'm working on, and basically the people I'm working on it with are in New York. And I didn't, Lauren's pregnant and I have time to travel. And it's like, oh, well, you can maybe go, you can do a Skype, you can do this. I'm like, no, I'm going. I flew for 30 hours, came right back. Because it's these certain things that you just don't get done without having this.
Yes.
And it's not the same impact. It's like, hey, pick up the phone or let me look at you on Zoom. And it's like, I know everybody loves technology and want to use these tools to optimize, but there's certain things that are so important. You need to have a human connection.
Monster connection. So that'd be another one. Totally agree. And then I think that a lot of people have separated their calling in their life from their work. I think more and more people, not all of you, your calling is going to be your vocation. It's not going to be. But for a lot of you, it should be. And you need to start to get more creative with how could you move this calling you have for the environment or for children or for healing people or for, your faith, whatever it is, finding a way to create something that can be profitable doing it as you go. It's almost back to where we were in the beginning, that I think that you shouldn't start with the idea of making a profit, but too many of you are at a job right now listening to this and it doesn't pull on your heart for making a difference in the world. You're the reverse. You literally do your job just for the money. And I think that you'll wake up when you're my age, when you're almost 50 years old and go, I took 20 years of my life literally just slaving for some money. And I should have got more creative, at least on a part-time basis, by doing something that my heart wanted to do.
You've talked about a lot how you've had to improve your skill of listening, which is another one I think is something that you constantly have to practice. I mean, for me, it's a practice. How can you tell our audience to become a better listener in person? I'm not just talking about like listening to a podcast. I'm talking about listening and communicating.
Yeah, a lot of things I do wrong that I still do wrong. I did a few of them today while we were talking. But stop nudging people along in the conversation. In other words, this is such a hard thing to do. Could you actually listen to their entire sentence without already pre-programming your response halfway through? And that's what we all do. We've been wired to do this. There was a time when people didn't do that. Nowadays, once you've started to figure out, I know what they're saying. They're a third of the way through, and here's what you're doing. You're like, I kind of get their point now. I'll let them finish these last 25 words. I'm kind of listening to those, but I'm ready to come back with my response. So one is, because here's why. You're afraid you may not have something to say in response to them, right? Just listen. It's okay that there's silence with people. Not enough of us allow a little bit of silence. If you go watch a great comedian, or when I speak on stage, if I'm speaking well, most of the great speakers, the great comedians are most comfortable in the silence. That's when the joke's funny. The joke's not funny when you're saying it. The joke's funny when you stop saying it and there's silence, okay? In human communication, you're a great listener if you're a little comfortable with some silence after they're done speaking. That silence makes them think, and it's true, you actually listened all the way through. It doesn't have to be, oh yeah. You don't have to do that. Listen, be quiet, and then respond. You'll enjoy the conversation more. And you'll build deeper connections with people too. The other one is don't nudge them along. Yep, right, yep, right, You think you're agreeing with them, but what you're really saying to that person is hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. It's called a verbal nudge that you do with people when you listen. And then also repeat back to people what they've said. Tell them, good question, or thank you for asking, or wow, I never thought about it that way. Like actually let them know that you've heard them. That's one of the biggest things. You talk about marriage again too. My wife's big thing, man, is like, you don't need to fix this every single time I tell you something, right? In fact, I already know you could probably fix it. That's not why I'm telling you it. I'm expressing myself like, shut up and like, listen to me. And here's a big one that I tell my wife when I talk to her. Could you please look at me when I'm talking to you? Okay, like this may seem simple. So what I do is I verbal nudge her. What she does is she does not look at me for the whole time I'm talking. And I'm like, when you look away, she's like, but the kids, the dog. I'm like, when you're looking away, it makes me think you're no longer listening to me. Do you like look at me when I'm talking to you, please, babe? Right? Now she's gonna be pissed at me when she hears this.
Taylor, pull this whole clip for me. Pull this whole segment for me and put it on my desk so I can listen to it every morning.
So don't verbal nudge. Listen all the way through. Be comfortable in silence. Actually listen to them and like look at them when they're talking to you. These will make you all better listeners. Repeat back to them what they said too.
But this is why I want to have people like you on the show, because I think the idea here was to do this show for our audience's benefit, but honestly, this is to our benefit. Like, right. I'm not joking. Like, Taylor, pull that clip for me. I need to play it like 10 times a week. I need to get better. But you know, it's funny. I think people, when they like, I have this problem with my wife where I'm actually really listening, but I don't verbally repeat back to her what she said. And so she looks at me and says like, you're not listening. I really am listening, but I need to be better at acknowledging that I'm listening.
Yeah. Because people, so you said listening is a skill. Part of most of listening is making the other person feel as if you're listening to them. Not that you actually listen to them. So the mistake I make is I nudge her along and I give her an answer. She's like, you didn't even let me finish how I feel about this. I don't need you to fix it. And in her case, I'm like, I need you looking at me when I'm talking to you so that I know that you're listening to me, right? So the best listeners make you feel like you listened to them. That's the point.
I also think people that listen are influencing people. I mean, I try to listen to my audience every single day. I know you're the same way. What do you think makes someone influential?
Okay, so I want to say one thing about you on that. I just showed you on my phone, and I don't mean this to all my friends. There's lots of podcasts out there. Tell them I showed you on my phone. How many podcasts are on my phone that
He does listen to the Skinny Confidential. Yeah. I feel I hope it's a good one. I hope it's not one about like Taylor's 1 Minute Man situation.
No, I listen to the vast majority of them, right? And so there's two that I won't say what the other one is, but there's my show and yours and one other that I listen to because you are great at that. Like you don't come in interviews with, here's my set of questions and that's all I'm going to ask. There are a lot of podcasts like that. I don't do that either. I actually listen to them and respond to what they're saying. What makes somebody influential is one is a transfer of energy. You make people feel something. And here's the key thing. You can't transfer to somebody that which you're authentically, truly not experiencing. Like, I think the reason that we have a pretty good connection is I think you guys really do feel that I think you're pretty incredible. Like when we met, I told you, when I met you, I felt like I'm going to know these people most of my life. I don't think we're going to be together every single day because we're both busy, but I'm going to know you a long time. I'm interested in you guys. I think people feel that. There's a transfer of energy that makes you influential, right? And I think the other part of influence is you can get people to change their states. So if they're down, you can help them not be down and be up. If they're up, you can get them to take action on something. People of influence get people to change, to take actions. And so I'm always kind of monitoring that with myself as well, with the way that I talk. And then I think the big thing for me is this: does this person feed my energy or drain it? So I have people in my life all the time that I love, but they take energy from me. They're out of my life. I don't have them in my life anymore. You either feed my energy or you drain it. People think, man, all of your friends seem to be these, well-known people that you're working with or whatever. My best friend, man, he owns a transmission shop. My other dearest friend is a flooring contractor. These dudes are hilarious.
They give you the energy.
They give me energy. They love me. They believe in me. For me, like my most closest friends are weirdos. Like they make me laugh, right? Like that's influence to me, is you can change my state. I'm such a serious dude. I'm always grinding and working. My great influential friends are the ones who make me laugh, that just bring my state change. They lighten me up a little bit. They cause me to do different things. They cause me to be a better person. To me, that's influence.
So someone's listening, it's a new year, they have a toxic family member, a toxic friend. What do? Do they just cut him out? Like someone
Well, listen,
said
I would argue that's a form of influence, but negative influence.
It is. It is a form of it because they make you feel something.
that's true.
And they
That's
change
true.
your state.
They change your
We
state.
all know those people that we love them, but you get around them and they drain your energy. They're always down. They're always complaining, and it makes you feel bad. And
Yep.
That's interesting. It is a form of a different influence.
Big time it is.
Someone said to me, they're like, you don't cut someone off, you slowly back away.
Yeah.
Is that your opinion, or like
Okay.
black or white?
No, it's not. So I think you need to distinguish between this. Is this person purposely antagonistic towards me? Or are they just an energy draining negative person? About 5% of the people in your life are intentionally antagonistic. In other words, they are rooting against you. They are programming against you. They are lobbying against you. They are actually scheming against you. You have people like that in your life, and you need to be able to distinguish who those people are. And you do have one or two. Those people need to be gone. I don't care if they're your blood relative. If they're literally scheming antagonistically against you, they need to be out of your life. I have a huge family. There's one person in my family who is out. They're gone, and they're going to probably stay gone because they're intentionally antagonistic towards us. The rest of the other people in my life, the negative downers, those people, I've reduced my proximity to them over time. In other words, and it starts out, it may seem really organized, but once I figure out that's who they are, instead of them getting a text back to me immediately, it's 2-3 days later, right? And then the next time it's 4 or 5 days later. And just over time, if they don't get the message, there's going to be a message that our proximity to each other is going to be reduced. And even when I'm in your physical presence, I go into the meeting with a force field around me. You're not going to influence me. And here's again, it's the awareness thing. Once they start doing their little routine, I'm aware of it. It has no impact over me. That's why that awareness and that intention is a big deal.
Some people find this thought a little bit, I don't know, dark, but I read it a long time ago, and it was interesting. And like you said, even if it's a family member, sometimes you have a family member that it's a blood relation, but if they're either rooting for your downfall or they're negative or whatever, you gotta distance yourself. And it says that the devil gives you relations. Thank all gods you can choose your friends. Have you heard that one? It's a little dark, but it's
dark.
But there, I think some people they have a family member or somebody that's really close. Like, I can't get rid of this person because it's my blood, and they stick around and they don't know how to switch and get away from that negativity. And sometimes you have to take care of yourself to come back later and help that person.
Big time. You said that better than I did. I agree with that. I just think there's one or two people in your life that shouldn't be in it. Not a whole bunch, but there's one or two. They are out after you, man. And that's just sad to know. But as I'm saying it, some of you are picturing that person. You're like, yeah, I still go to lunch with her once in a while. Why would you still go to lunch with her when you know the minute you leave, she's texting all your girlfriends, everything you said in a negative way, that person should not be in your life. There shouldn't be any proximity. Now, if you have another girlfriend, every time you go to lunch, she's like, he broke up with me. Or a buddy of yours like, man, I'm down, I'm broke. That's different. I'd reduce proximity to them. These antagonistic people, bye-bye.
Sounds like you categorize them.
I do.
You got to put them in categories. What are Ed Mylett's routines? And I mean like do you have a morning routine, a night routine? Do you stop in the middle of the day and meditate? Like even your like little tiny routines.
Okay.
Not like overall picture. I'm more interested in the little ones.
Okay, so all of us have routines. So does everybody listening to this. You have a routine. It's whether or not that routine serves you and whether you're intentional and conscious of it. So you have a routine. Everybody does. I do too. So my morning one I took control of. So my whole theory was if I could control the first 30 minutes of my day and the last 30 minutes of my day, the probability of me having some control over the rest of it is higher. So not always, but so I do control the first 30 minutes. Biggest change I've made in my entire life is that I do not look at my telephone the first 30 minutes after I've woken up. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was a habit that was difficult. I broke it a few times. Now that phone does not get looked at the first 30 minutes. Why? Because everything on there requires a response. And if I start out my day in the dynamic that I respond to things, I react all day long, I'm not in control of my day. I'm going to dictate the terms of my day. And there's nothing on that phone that can't wait 30 minutes from when I wake up. And I'm not going to start my day as a reactor. I'm going to start my day as a dictator, meaning I dictate the terms. And so that first 30 minutes is pretty routine for me every single day. It's pretty detailed, so I'm not going to get into all of it, but I do get up. I do a quick prayer and meditation right away. I do some stretching, so I move my body and my mind. I get them in congruence right away. I do a gratitude exercise very quickly where it's in my book, but it talks about, who loves me? Who do I love? What am I grateful for in my life? What am I excited about right now? I learned that from Tony Robbins many, many years ago. It stayed there. I do a cold plunge every morning, whether it's a cold shower or the ocean or this little pool that I jump in. It's 2 minutes. It just absolutely activates my fight or flight. My nervous system's completely alive. I do that. Then I go through my goals and visualizations, and then I get into my day. And some days I work out first, then I eat. Other days I eat first, and then I work out. But those first 30 minutes are totally dictated. And then at night, it's reversed. Only thing I do that's different at night is I sleep in a cold place because it helps me get deeper sleep. But I actually do something warm before I go to bed. So if that's a hot bath, hot shower, hot something, it activates my body into sleep mode when there's heat. And then if you sleep in a cold environment, you'll sleep deeper. So I sleep on top of a chili pad. You can get one of those on Amazon if you wanted one, where it's a cold thing underneath me. But I keep the room, drives my wife crazy, but I keep the room pretty cold when I sleep because it just helps with deeper sleep. I don't do blue screen. I don't eat way before I go to bed. I do all those things that you probably heard before, but I'm pretty routine. But the biggest thing I probably do that most people don't do is I'm constantly selling myself the dream. So when I'm in the car driving, it's a habit. I just visualize the future. I visualize where I'm going. I visualize what my life's going to look like. I'm a hyper crazy dreamer person. I'm a big believer in dreaming and in excitement and in picturing the future of my life. And I give myself that gift all the time. Because here's the truth. Your present isn't all that great most of the time. So I give myself the gift of escaping into the future pretty regularly. And that's something I don't know that most people do, but I do it. I did it driving up here. I'll do it driving back. Little moments of just I'm dreaming about the future.
Give you one last quote. I'm sure you've heard it. Abraham Lincoln said, "Best way to predict the future is to create it for yourself."
You're loaded with quotes
Yeah, Michael,
today.
what's going on?
Well, I just,
Doogie Howser.
I'm on that Four Sigmatic focus shot. I swear to God, that stuff keeps me.
If you can leave our audience, it's a new year. It's a way to start fresh with a couple tangible takeaways. It could be just a medley of all different things from this episode. Just a couple sentences. What would you leave them with?
One, I would tell you that you need to start to anchor your goals when you're working out again. I cannot emphasize that enough. You're going to begin to change your damn life when your body and your mind get in congruence. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I'm going to tell you something. You are enough, and you're supposed to do something great with your life, and not enough people are telling you that. You were born to do something great with your life. Forget tangible. I'm telling you the truth. You were born to do something special. You were born to do something great, and you ought to start to believe that. You ought to start to chase that. You ought to stop settling. If you're in a relationship, stop settling. Stop settling for your life. Malcolm X has this great quote that says, "That which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate." And maybe there's got to be a part of you that as you start this new year, and this may sound uncomfortable, maybe there's a part of you that just despises that former life. Like you hate it. You're no longer going to tolerate a life like the one you've been living, that you want to step into a new space. You are the author and creator, along with God, of your life. You can write a new chapter any freaking time you choose to. Like any time you choose to, you can turn the page of your life and be an entirely new human being. And this is a time of year where that ought to be the time. This ought to be the time where you go, what an occasion. It doesn't need January to do it. You could do it in July if you wanted to. But right now you could step into this new person, walk different, talk different, think different, bow your back a little bit. Decide to be a new character in your life. This is the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive, between what we can do with technology, what we can do to connect with one another, the access to information like your show. This stuff did not exist 20 years ago. There's no reason why you can't be bigger, dream bigger, do bigger, become something more special in your life. And we want to help you. Your show, my show, our content, it's like our honor to do it. And guess what? If you get to my age, you get to 50 years old. And by the way, even if you're 50 listening to this, there's a few, okay? You still got time on your hands too. But trust me when I tell you that you do not want to get to my age and look back and regret the chances you didn't take, the opportunities you didn't pursue, the times you didn't show yourself more confidence and more kindness. You're going to regret it when you get to my age. You're going to think, I had it all. It was there and I didn't know it. It was like the Matrix. I thought I was in this box. I thought I had to live a certain way. I thought I was destined for something. And then I just started to think differently and act differently and be differently. I could have had a completely different life by the time I get to 50 years old. And I want you to get there and love it. I want you to get to that stage of your life where you're at my age and you're like, you know what? I'm maxing out my life. I'm doing all I'm capable of. So that would be my message.
Ed Mylett, I love you. You're the best. You're the
You
best.
are the best. I want you to pimp yourself out, but what I would love
Wow,
is if you could give them one episode that they could start with on your podcast.
If they're not already listening, I'm sure there's a
I'm
ton
sure
that
they're
are
already listening. But what? Like I'm obsessed with your listening episode, guys.
Thank you.
I love your solos.
Thank you. I know you like when I do just my own stuff. If you went way, way old school, audio only, so it's not on YouTube, way, way, way back, there's one called Unlocking Your Success Code. I think that there'd be a whole bunch of notes in that one for you. I'd go there. The Keys to Maxing Out is another one. Blissful Dissatisfaction is pretty good too. But I would go back all the way on the audio platforms to Unlocking Your Success Code.
When you were talking there, for a minute, I
Instagram.
almost flipped the table. I got so jazzed up.
Instagram handle.
Ed Mylett, EDMYLETT.
And what are you doing next? What's in the works? What's brewing?
What's brewing? My podcast is going to blow up. I've got more great guests coming next year. I'm going to be doing some things on social media that are a little bit different, and I have a Netflix show that I think that you'll see come out in June or July, so be looking for that.
Amazing.
Thank you so much
Love
for
you
coming
guys.
on.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Taylor, I hope you took notes, man.